Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. How did you get into my house? Hello everyone, welcome back to the only YouTube channel on the internet. I hope you're doing well. Today we're talking about the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. Good old Brandy Sandy, the most famous working epic fantasy author alive today, and his magnum opus, the Stormlight Archive, which is one of my favorite series of all time. I have a Bridge 4 tattoo right here, in case any of the haters try to skate through and tell me, oh Jonah, you aren't a real Stormlight truther. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Because I have that shit inked on me, baby. Anyways, if you saw my video a couple weeks ago about why Sun Eater is amazing, I am doing a version of that video today for the Stormlight Archive. And today, it's going to be a little bit more rambly than that video, if you can believe that. Because today, I'm going to talk specifically about the mass appeal that the Stormlight Archive has and why I think Brandon Sanderson has simply found the formula for crowd-pleasing epic fantasy books. I like to describe the Stormlight Archive, and really all of Brandon Sanderson's work as a whole, as blockbuster epic fantasy. And to explain what I mean by that, it has the same feeling as when you go to like a 7 o'clock showing of the summer blockbuster of the year. You come out, you're chatting with your friends, you had a great time, you're grinning ear to ear, it left you in a good mood, even if you suffered heartbreak, even if you went through hardship, it leaves you with that satisfied feeling where you just experienced something truly spectacular and you're feeling great, you're riding that high. That's what Brandon Sanderson's books do for you. And it's because he has found that formula of storytelling and applied it to his own original worlds, his own original characters, his own original magics, and that is something truly special because when you're watching like a real blockbuster in a theater, that is a product of like a whole studio. Brandon Sanderson is just writing books by himself. Yeah, he has a whole team of editors, but all that stuff is coming out of his noggin, which I think is truly special. So for anyone who doesn't know, in case you've clicked on this video, the Stormlight Archive is an epic fantasy series by Brandon Sanderson. The books are ginormous. They're all like 1,300 pages long, which sounds like a lot, but really it kind of skates by once you're reading them. I actually don't really know how to describe the plot of this series to you. I guess the best summary I could possibly give you is that there is a war going on between humans and this race called the Parshendi, and a lot of the first book takes place on the battlefield that is called the Shattered Plains, and you're following various characters that are involved with this conflict in some capacity. That seems like a decent summary of what is going on. So I guess I'll start off by talking specifically about the world of the Stormlight Archive and why I find it fascinating, because it doesn't really resemble anything I've read in fantasy before. It's called the Stormlight Archive, and part of that is that there are storms that occur periodically on this world. It's just a normal part of life. Everyone experiences them. Everyone is ready for them. All of their architecture has been built to prepare specifically for the storms to come a certain way because they pass over the certain way every single time. And when these storms pass over, they recharge these orbs with stormlight, and these orbs both work as currency, as a way to just use them as lighting in a room, and they have other capabilities that I will not touch on because that's a spoiler. And in this world, there's all sorts of races. There's the Parshendi, who the humans are at war with. There's all sorts of animals and beasts that just aren't anything recognizable to what we see in normal epic fantasy most of the time. If you think about like Tolkien, or if you think about just that classic high epic fantasy feeling, you know, maybe even like Game of Thrones, you don't really have anything like those normal races that you would see in something like that. Instead, Brandon Sanderson has crafted wholly original ideas that inhabit this fantasy world. So there's so many countries and factions and people that all exist that in ways embody those tropes that were started in classic epic high fantasy and have now gone beyond the bounds of what was contained in all of that. And that's a trend that's been all over the place in modern epic fantasy. I would argue that Sanderson is absolutely part of the spearheading effort of doing that, and I think he's also done it extremely well. So this world feels so unique, so fresh, and so original. Every part of it feels alive. It feels inhabited by all these creative ideas, by these fascinating world-building elements that really just make this entire reading experience extremely immersive. And moving on from the world building, because that is the stage of the Stormlight Archive, that is definitely the playground that he has built for all of the characters to operate within, and the characters themselves, as always with pretty much any story you ever read in your life, are going to be the crux of the narrative. And Brandon Sanderson is extremely good at writing relatable characters. That is a classic blockbuster formula. Anytime you're watching a movie that seems larger than life, they are always going to ground the characters in relatability. So when you're watching Spider-Man do something incredible, really it's about him overcoming his fear, about him overcoming his identity issues, and those are things that everybody can relate to, and the Stormlight Archive is no exception to that when it comes to blockbuster writing. This entire cast is extremely relatable. The things they are overcoming, yes, they are overcoming them in epic fashion, in bombastic fashion, in things that we cannot even truly comprehend, but the problems that they are overcoming are things that I think almost anybody could see themselves in. You've got Kaladin, who's dealing with depression, and I think that's something many people can relate to. You've got Dalinar, who is just trying to be a better man, and that's something a lot of people can relate to. You've got Shallan, who's dealing with anxiety and identity issues. I could go on and on. Every single one of the major players in the Stormlight Archive has something that I think a lot of people could see themselves in, which is a huge part of why this series is so popular. It's very marketable because there's something in there for everyone, and Brandon Sanderson is really good at resolving those issues and at building up through those problems. And what I mean by that is identifying a problem a character is going through and slowly building them up through the series, giving them a natural progression so that they either overcome or accept whatever problem it is that they're dealing with. But the ways that they do that are way larger than life. They're way more epic than real life. And that's why it's so fun to read, because you want to cheer for these characters. You cry for these characters. You're there with them because you understand them. You understand why they are the way they are. You understand the struggles they've been through. And I think that's a very difficult thing to pull off, especially when you're dealing with a cast as large as the cast of the Stormlight Archive. And adjacent to that, I want to talk about Brandon Sanderson's prose, because that is something that he is often criticized for, because his prose is very basic, it's very simple, and there's nothing wrong with that in my opinion. I think that's totally okay, and that's actually part of why this series can appeal to so many people, because you can sit down and pick up the Stormlight Archive, and even if you haven't read anything in years and years, he's not going to be throwing flowery language at you. He's not going to be throwing anything too complicated at you. You can sit down and simply dig your teeth into the story and not really have to worry about, did I understand what he's trying to explain here? Did I misunderstand the description of this place? He's just going to tell you what it is in very basic language, and that's okay, and I think that's actually aiding the Stormlight Archive and what it's going for in this blockbuster feel, because again, it can appeal to basically everyone. Brandon Sanderson just really understands how to build to a payoff. There's a whole meme within the Sanderson community, the Cosmere community, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is, that he has this whole thing that at the end of every single one of his books, there's an enormous climax where all the plot threads come together. It's called the Sanderlanche, and it's always so epic and bombastic, and you can't put the book down because finally everything's coming together. And the reason that works is because he's very good at promise and payoff. At the beginning of the story, he's going to promise you something. He's going to promise this is going to happen, and you kind of understand that the character is headed in a certain direction, but how do they get there, and what is the payoff actually like when they reach that destination? And I think something that this series doesn't get enough credit for is how deep it can be. There are so many quotes within the Stormlight Archive that are deeply moving and deeply touching. Brandon Sanderson can be very insightful sometimes. Sometimes he throws a passage at you and it just blows you away with how poetic and how real it is, how much he can dig into the human condition through the exploration of these characters and their struggles. I have so many of his quotes saved in my phone that I just found extremely touching and uplifting. When a book can do that for you, I really don't care what the dressing is on it. If a book can impact you that way, it is special, it is a work of art, and I think that the Stormlight Archive is underappreciated appreciated in that respect. And on top of all of this is the spectacle. Brandon Sanderson is very good at writing spectacle. There are so many amazing sequences throughout this series that are just seared into my brain. I'll never forget reading them for the first time. So many iconic moments and lines that are just, oh, dude, he just knows how to hit you and get. I can't tell you how many times when I was reading the Stormlight Archive, I just put the book down for a second and I just stood up and walked around and I was like, let's go! And one more thing about this series that I really love, and I love about all of Sanderson's book, is that no details are wasted. If he includes something in the world building, if he includes something in the plot, it's going to be important. He finds a way to bring everything together, and he lays these crumbs all throughout his story for you to kind of latch onto and nibble on as he keeps feeding you more and more of them, and you build up to a full understanding of what this world actually is, how all its components fit together. And I love that, because in a lot of other series it would be indulgent and a lot of those details would go unused, but Brandon Sanderson uses all of those details, and I love it that he does that. All in all, I think this is one of the easiest series that I love to recommend to people. A lot of these series, I have a hard time recommending it to everyone, like Sun Eater, for instance. It's not gonna be for everyone. It's definitely not gonna be for everyone. It's going to be polarizing because it is a very specific form of storytelling that's just not gonna work for everyone, and I think a lot of the series that I really love, again, it's just not gonna work for everyone. But the Stormlight Archive, I can safely say that most people would love this. Not everyone, obviously, not everyone loves everything, but this is something that I feel like I can safely recommend to most people, and they would probably like it. And that's why Brandon Sanderson is so damn successful. Anyways, I really love the Stormlight Archive. I had a great time reading this series. I was reading that series at the same time that I was reading One Piece. Let me tell you, man, that was some of the best months of my life in terms of media consumption. That feels weird as a way to describe reading these series, but you know what I mean. Definitely influenced my taste in a lot of ways. And actually, these series are weirdly similar in some ways. I don't really know how to explain that to you, but if you like One Piece, try the Stormlight Archive. If you like the Stormlight Archive, try One Piece. I think there would be a lot of crossover in terms of fans. Let me know what other series you would like for me to cover in videos like this. I definitely want to do a First Law one for this, because First Law is also one of my favorite series of all time. I'll probably do a Malazan one. I could do a One Piece one. I've made a lot of One Piece videos in the past if you search all through my channel, but I'm glad to do more of them. I will gladly talk about One Piece any day of the week. So yeah, just let me know, and let me know if there's anything else you're interested in seeing me talk about just in general on the channel, because I am still kind of figuring out what I'm gonna do with this channel, and I am open to suggestions. Right now I'm just freestyling. Anyways, folks, until next time, I hope you're happy and healthy, I hope you're doing well, and I will see you then. Sayonara! Sorry, I don't know what I was doing there. Bye-bye. Don't pretend I didn't do the sayonara, please. Bye-bye.